This is our 44th, 45th year on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. So OneFort is very firmly in the public market space. We've done extremely well in a market that's dominated by big elephants and big gorillas. We continue to be a shop with 75 people but punch above our weight. We don't do more than 4 or 5 deals. We tend to do very interesting deals that are hopefully forward-looking and kind of changing the status quo in the financial markets, and particularly in the fintech space.
What does the current investment environment look like?
You definitely see the public markets picked up tremendous momentum on a day like this when the Fed says, we're not done with raising rates, or we're not looking for cutting rates anytime soon. Market still goes up. All right. So the public market seems to be recovering really rather well. The private market always seems to have a 6 to 9 month lag. So we're beginning to see indications of private market picking up, but we're still about, quite a ways away from where things were back in 2021. My focus is helping startup companies in the financial services space, what's called Fintech, basically raise capital, grow, and make the industry better. And that's in traditional spaces like capital markets that you're discussing here in the FIA, but it's also bleeding into areas like, crypto and blockchain and all of those interesting technologies at the edges, and basically the funding environment for all the entrepreneurs that are building technology around that.
What is the state of SPACs?
The SPAC model picked up steam and did very well, right? And there were a lot of willing sponsors that are sponsoring SPACs, then looking for investment opportunities. Some did well, but then by 2021, the regulators came down and said, we're going to look at the SPAC situation more closely. And basically 2022 and 2023, there were hardly any SPACs being done. So the model still exists. There's nothing wrong with the model, but it's just that it happens in waves depending on capital market conditions. We still don't see the SPAC activity picking up steam. I think Webull seems to be the exception there. I'm not commenting about Webull itself, but more about the SPAC idea. It's obviously great for when you're doing something around interesting, new, innovative technology with this promise, because you don't know the timing of that. So that makes sense for, artificial intelligence, AI kind of stuff. But for most of the stuff that I look at, the SPAC model is not necessarily the best model for raising capital going public.
What's the status of the IPO model these days?
There's heavy incentive for companies to remain private, enormous amount of funding available in the private market, entrepreneurs willing to keep the companies, wanting the companies to stay private longer, to stay away from the public eye. So I think that we have a long-term issue because we want companies to actually go public, so what larger investor universe in the market in the US and abroad can participate in the economic growth of a company eventually growing up and going public, right? So the longer a company stays private, it deprives the vaster investor universe of actually, availing themselves an investment opportunity. So you've got a long-term problem there, right? But obviously, the IPO market is improving. You saw folks like Adina Friedman, the morning NASDAQ CEO, talking about that. But I still don't see, there is a glimmer of hope. The window's opening, but we'll see what the rated IPO does. I'm optimistic. But we're again, not in the all clear as yet. We'll have to see what happens this summertime. I would say on the related to the fintech market, there are 3 companies that are hopefully going to go public this year. Is Stripe, obviously well-recognized name of the payment space run by, Jack Dorsey, which is called Stripe, by the Collison brothers. Second is a company Klarna that we all know, buy now, pay later company. And third company is somewhat lesser known, but an incredible company called Circle. Based out of Boston. They are the second largest stablecoin issuer, USDC. Whatever happens with those IPOs, if they're successful in the market, that sets the tone very well for all the other 45, 48 or so US fintech unicorns that might be going public in the next 2 or 3 years.
What do you expect to see done to revitalize the London markets?
No question about it. The Brexit situation has put London, the city of London, and the financial industry on the back foot. They're just kind of recovering from that. There are some structural problems, with the region, with the country itself. But talking about the financial environment, outside the US, the UK is incredible technology, innovation, and financial powerhouse. It's not going away anytime soon. So I think, they are going to do much better. There was massive investment going into fintech in the UK, particularly consumer banking, some aspects of foreign exchange. Obviously, they're one of the largest foreign exchange markets, in equities as well. So I think I'm pretty hopeful things will recover. I don't think they're going to be where they were, 10, 15 years ago. That time, I don't think it's getting back.
What about Europe as a whole? How will it do given the current environment?
If you talk about from a financial capital markets person, the only countries that matter really are France and Germany, right, and mainland. You can talk about some Nordic countries too, but you could talk about Italian Borsa. But beyond that, it's like, it falls off a cliff in terms of the importance of France and Germany. That's about 50 to 70% of market capitalization in mainland continental Europe. Broadly, I think I'm hopeful about Europe. Things are going to look better, but I think there are really pockets of progress. Like Germany's doing a lot better. France, always very innovative. Italy has been stuck mired for the last 10 years, and everything else is like the long tail. I think there's a ray of hope in Eastern Europe. Obviously, the whole Ukrainian crisis has pushed back activity in Europe. That's been the number one factor that's dampening activity. So unless that macroeconomic situation is sorted out, I don't think Europe is going to get out of that situation. But in the meantime, we're watching some very interesting developments happening in Germany and, like I said, in France when it comes to technology innovation.